a question I ask every guest is, when did you become unbothered?
I mean, there, I when I hear questions like that, I'm always like, isn't it a constant unveiling of what you need to become unbothered by and about? But I feel like unbothered really hit once I had my son. Even before he came here, I broke my ankle while I was 7 months pregnant. I was
Oh
on
my
this
God.
show. I know, honey. And my husband had to take care of me, bathe me, put me on the toilet, like all those things. And I think it was the first time it really hit me about what have I been putting my focus on? And has it really been important? And also, it just sounds like a PSA, but it became so obtuse in my life, like how Black women are taken care of, how we are not taken care of, and how there's so much work to do just to be considered and to feel safe in this body. Because the way I was treated in that hospital from the moment my son was, had a heartbeat and people thought I wanted to get rid of him on day one, like doctor after doctor being like, so you want to keep him? And I'm like, yeah, let me find a new doctor. And I'm waiting for like that moment of like, you know what I'm saying? So, between that and him being born, I was like, okay.
A lot of people who appear on this podcast who have kids, so many of them give the answer of like, oh, the moment I had my first child, and here's why, because it takes you to a different mental space because now you are responsible for another whole human. Right?
Yeah, but even though you also see how capitalism, white supremacy, uh, patriarchy, like anything related to a woman is at the bottom. So care is at the bottom. Elderly care is at the bottom. Service, customer service, like things to take care of the other is at the bottom because it's essentially more feminized. And then anything that's masculine is at the top. So you realize that from the moment you step foot in the hospital, you're like, whoa, these people don't care nothing about me. The system don't care about women. The entire nation doesn't really care about women, and they don't care about kids, especially when that baby leaves the body. And so then you just see everything feels like the Matrix.
Yeah, I mean, they care about fetuses, not really actual children. But
You see
I ain't
what I'm
gonna talk about
saying?
all that.
That's
I'm gonna
next
be
time when Cassie comes back.
that's what I'm saying. Next time you come back, we're gonna have that whole conversation. It sounds like you went through some ups and downs during your pregnancy, because for doctors and medical staff to treat you that way, like, where was that coming from?
I'm guessing it's coming from the color of my skin. Listen,
Right.
when we didn't come here to talk about this, but like I said, the first time I went, I had to change doctors because I had a miscarriage. Because the way the
Mm,
doctor said to me is, he was like, "Well, of course you had a miscarriage. Look at that, you're a mess on the inside. You don't talk about nobody insides like that." And I thought only a man would say that to a woman. And then just the way they even use tools on my body to see, I was like, I'm not a cow. And then you start to think about all the history that you know about, gynecology and Black women's bodies. And, like all that trauma lives in the body, even though it didn't happen. And so it didn't happen to me personally. Right. And so then when I went to another doctor, I was just waiting to get the official, you're pregnant. And like I said, I went through 2 rounds of doctors who basically started the conversation with, yeah, you're pregnant. Do you want to keep it? And I was like, is this how you talk to people? Like, what? Why are you assuming I don't want this baby? And then them countering it 3 times. Are you sure? And I was like, and I said, everyone stop. This is good news. So then I had to find a new doctor. And then when I went to the third doctor, who was a midwife, um, but more like a city midwife. I remember I walked in, they did the whole check-in, and the woman was like, I don't even know why they let you come here today. I just don't have any time for you. This is just ridiculous. You know what? I'm just gonna go through this whole thing. And then next time you come in, we'll do a whole thing on you. Okay. And I'm like, what? Where is the moment of like, you are? I mean, I get that I'm a Black woman and the archetype of Black woman means strong, but we're also fragile. We are so weak. We're also vulnerable. We are also loving mothers, sisters. You know what I'm saying? None of that happened. And then when I came back to that same doctor trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, like maybe some ish happened, like you don't know, people got lives. I come back in there again, And they go through the thing and they listen to that. And they're like, so you've been having any issues? And I said, well, I've been having a lot of headaches. And the woman did, you're pregnant. What are you supposed to have? And I was like, and mind you, the following week, one of Michelle Obama's like friends, who's like was like one of the top people in Black maternal health, died, and one of her main symptoms were headaches. And I made my husband listen to this NPR thing that was about her, and I said, "See, money, class, education. I got an MFA, I got a master's. None of that stuff keeps me protected once I walk in through these doors, you know." So I ended up leaving New York City and I went to upstate New York to like Kingston, Woodstock area, like where it's country granola, and found people who just talked to me like I was like this mother, this being. And it was like a thank God that's where I went. And so I got to connect with nature. I found my people. I found a great postpartum doula who was like this Latina, beautiful, genius womb mother. And then my nanny. I mean, I found a whole bunch of people who just were interested in my care and like ancestral care. That's what I was looking for. People
Mm.
who are much more interested in me outside of my color.
Well, the experience that you've shared, and thank you for sharing that because I think a lot of Black women have gone through so many similar experiences, particularly when you look at what the mortality rate is for Black mothers. I mean, it's a shame that basically, statistically, we're back to almost like the mid 1800s, right? Because that's what's happening. And you're right, it's across income levels. It is across a variety of other factors. The commonality is that you're Black women. And this is something I know Serena Williams talked about. I mean, she almost died. If they hadn't listened to
Literally.
her, she
Yes.
almost died if they hadn't
Honey,
listened to
can I
her.
tell you when I broke my ankle? I mean, I love people like, when they gonna talk about Bella? Hold on, it's coming.
Yeah,
Yo,
we'll get there. Don't
we
worry
did
about
that.
it. Yeah.
When I was in the hospital for my foot being, I broke my ankle while working on a TV show. And anyway, after the surgery, I kept saying my big toe hurt, but I couldn't see it because my ankle all the way to my foot was covered in this like cast thing. And they were like, yeah, that's normal. And like all night long, I'm like, I need pain medication. My big toe, I sound like old girl from Dealer Reese, from Harlem
Oh,
Nights, but
from
my
Harlem Nights, yeah.
her pinky toe. Instead, it's my big toe. And I sound stupid talking about it, right? My husband, who's a white man, comes in and I'm like in pain. He's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, all night. And this morning I keep telling him about my big toe. And he's like, what? My husband goes out, says it once. White man though, he gonna say it one time. They come back in with the nurse and the doctor and the knife to cut the boot open, and my toe was black.
Did you have some kind of infection? I take it.
Some type of like, like blood. Something happens where blood just got caught under the skin, and
Oh, okay.
so it just permeated, and then it caused all of this like, infection. This thing. And my husband's like, and she asked how many times. Well, we didn't know it hurt that bad. And I'm like, exactly, because I look like strength to you people. I am fragile. I'm like, I wish I could put on like a filter, like I'm like a blonde, like really petite little girl. I'm like, excuse me, I'm hurting. But my voice sounds like this and I look like this. And they're like, she's fine.
Well, that's a big problem in the medical industry because even now, the studies that are done with medical students, currently obviously going to school to be doctors, they still believe, like a significant majority, that Black people can tolerate more pain. And as crazy as it sounds, that is still a very big problem in the medical community, that people just
Well,
assuming we can do that.
a part of that is my aunt wrote a book and she gonna kill me. I don't know the name of it. But she and another one, she's in the medical field, she's a psychologist, but they did a book on how, there's like a range and there's a word they call it, but Black people have like a higher rate of emotions. Meaning if we like something, we really like it, right? We feel it. And white people can feel things deeply, but it's the other way around. You don't see it, right? So they're looking at us through their spectrum, which is these are always loud, emotional people. So when they talk about something hurt, it probably doesn't. It's probably here, and for a
Mm.
white person, since they don't emote at the same level of our emotion, when they complain, it must be big because these are very, different level people. So our emotional IQ about each other is just off. Does that make sense? So if
Yeah,
you
that
see
makes
someone,
sense.
people who feel a lot, and it's not just us. There are a lot of people who feel things at a higher level and other
Hmm.
people who don't. And the funny thing is, not all Black people emote. That's a huge generalization. But it's true, we are people who emote at a bit of different quality. So white people look at that as, oh, they're always at a 10. So how can I tell when they're in pain when they're always at a 10? But only other Black people can tell. Like, yeah, Cassie might be loud, but if she's saying she's in pain, she probably in pain right now.